Um, do we know when the last time the charter was updated? Any idea?
No.
No, sir.
Okay. The reason I bring it up is I think it's in dire need of being updated. I went through most of it, and it just seems like it's got a lot of outdated things in there. And one example is what we're doing today. The in the the code, it talks about we have up to 10 days to replace the mayor, right? Well, that was dictated by the city, correct?
My understanding.
So I looked around at other cities, and other cities, they do it a lot different. And of course, they all vary because every city has a different culture. They had a lot of different variables, such as population size and things like that. And a lot of them I see, it's usually between 30 and 90 days. Some of them even talk about a special election and things like that. I think this really put us in a corner that we really didn't want to be in. Because I feel like we're trying to rush this process, and we have to. We don't have a choice because this charter wasn't updated. 10 days doesn't give you a whole lot of time. And so I really urge that we go and we look at this and really get this updated. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's a big deal now because now we have to abide by it. So I really think that needs to be looked at. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Real quick, I'd like to ask the attorney, could you relate what the state statute says about replacement?
Yes, sir. Section 114.04 lets the governor appoint, if it's within 28 days of a term limit running out, the governor will appoint or can appoint until the remainder of the term. So to fulfill it for the rest of the seat's time, if it's greater than 28 months left in the term, then it's until the next regular election, which is the same as our charter essentially.
So, but the 10 days is dictated by our charter, not by state statute?
Yeah, correct. The 10
Okay.
days is, and when I say the same as our charter, it's consistent with our charter.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Any
So when we had our special meeting about who we're going to have as the mayor for the city, one of the things I brought up was about the city charter. And I asked, when was the last time we updated it? And no one really knew the answer to that. So I guess my question is, are we looking at redoing that? And I'll just say this, I'd be more than willing to head it up, and if you want to pick me, that's fine. But I think we really need to pick someone, because I've been going through it myself, and it's only a 15-page document, but I think it's a very important document. And I think if we would have updated that before, we wouldn't have been put in the time-critical crunch that we were to try to find another mayor, because we only had 10 days. And I think that's one part that needs to be rewritten. And I just hate for us to be put in a corner again like we did with that. And I think we had to make a really quick decision. I think things would have worked out differently if we would have updated that charter. So.
I can tell you, as far as I'm concerned, I have not pushed the issue. With all the other irons in the fire at the moment, we're just trying to keep things moving forward.
I understand.
And I would like this commission to consider looking at that, but I would like to wait until we get our new law firm in place and let them take a look at it.
I understand. I understand you have a lot on your plate, but I just think it's an
Yes,
important
sir.
document. So.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other yes, hand up first. So come on up, Mr. Scray. Nobody else has raised their hand, sir.
Hello, Ryan Scray, I live on Missouri Avenue. Somebody asked me to be present today and talk about this because they're working and they couldn't come. I know I haven't been at many meetings lately, but I watched them all online. So what I want to talk about today is what they asked me to, which is this line in the proposed changes to the charter, which removes the line indicating which ordinance must first be approved by referendum, which is in the context of the city commission giving itself pay increases. Now, I don't want to talk about if you guys deserve a pay increase or not. That's not really relevant to this. I personally believe you guys probably do, and any future commissioners too. I want to talk about the process, the governance process itself. This person that shared this with me and wanted me to talk about this expressed concern for a governmental body giving itself pay increases without the public having input, other than the fact that the public elects you at large. So I would urge this commission body to strongly consider not making that change and allowing the new commission that comes in to consider making such a change to the charter in aspect of pay increases, because we are in an election year and there's two members of this commission that may or may not be here depending on if they're running again or not. Additionally, I would urge any commission and other members of this community that are running for the commission to consider how pay increases are given to the commission and what sort of input the public has into that process and how it's governed, to ensure that it's not just internal and there's no public input to that. There's so many ways to do that that aren't, considered sketchy, for lack of a better term. I think having something where the public is giving you input into that process would be wise to do, and it would increase public trust. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody else have any comments they'd like to make? Yes, sir. I almost didn't recognize you with a mask on, Mr. Walker. I'm sorry about that.
I'm trying to hide. Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I apologize for being away for a while, but COVID-19 knocked the house in half, so I did get my free pass to go, so I'm out on the market again. Ladies, gentlemen, we're going to be discussing the charter later, but what we have here is an opinion by people we haven't had a chance to talk to dealing with the charter. We have opinions too. Our opinions are just as much valuable as the person that is changing our charter. That is our document. It is compared to the Constitution of the United States. That's our governing body. It is the people's document. To change the Constitution of the United States is pretty difficult. To change the charter is difficult. You have not adhered to the charter in the last two basic incidences, and actually, you've broken the law. That's unacceptable. That's why the citizens are asking for a total review, line for line, by the charter, at the charter, to look at it. Bring it up to date now and for the future. We're going to be discussing that later.
Moving on to item 16, public hearing, final reading of ordinance 1109, amending the City of Lynn Haven charter. City Manager, would you please read the amendment?
An ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, proposing an amended charter, making the charter gender neutral, removing obsolete and outdated language, updating the terms of office for elected officials, and removing specific reference to transition dates, removing conflicting language on commissioners' compensation to be consistent with current practices, amending the process of filling vacancies on the commission, clarifying the appointment of department heads by the city manager, removing the designation of a city treasurer and providing that such duties shall be performed by the mayor, providing that the canvassing board shall report to the commission consistent with current practice, directing the supervisory elections place a referendum on the ballot of the next general election, providing ballot language, providing for notice of referendum in accordance with law, providing for codification upon that passage at referendum, and providing an immediately effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. And Mr. Obos, I believe you may have something for us.
Yeah, and just to address a couple of the comments earlier, and obviously we can have more comments here after there's a motion. But this is not amending our charter. This is approving proposed amendments to get put on the ballot in April. So the citizens will absolutely have the final word in this, and we'd have to have a majority of citizens that vote to approve this. So just to clarify, this is going to go on the if approved today, it would go on the referendum to be voted on by all citizens. The other comment about commission salary, again, there would not be any opportunity for this commission or a future commission to do anything, behind closed doors. You would still need an ordinance, as with any ordinance, 2 readings, publish notice in the paper for 10 days, have a public hearing. So, and again, if this is approved at referendum and goes into effect, it would be a new commission at that point in time. They would have to come back with an ordinance and have a couple of meetings if they want to set a salary and just basically codify what they're already getting, or if they want to give themselves a raise or reduce it, wherever they want to do. That would have to be done with multiple public meetings by the new commission. So I wanted
Just to be
everybody's clear
clear,
about that.
just to be clear, the question was pertaining to the pay raises for commission from the citizen. So what was the old language and what's the new language?
The old language said you would still need to do a ordinance, and then you would have to put that ordinance on a referendum to get approved at an election, similar to what we're doing right now. But so say, look, I think we should get $40,000 a year. You would do an ordinance and say, put that on the referendum, and the citizens have to vote on that. So that's currently what's in the charter. This just says you don't have to put everything on a referendum. You still have to do an ordinance. And again, you have public input just in advertisements, just like any other ordinance. So we're just taking out the requirement for a referendum to approve anything. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a raise. It's just any setting of compensation.
May I say something?
Of course, ma'am.
Okay, let me start out by saying this. When I was elected 4 years ago, as I sit here, I'm telling you, I didn't even know we got paid. I thought we did this as, just a way to represent the citizens. And then when we all of a sudden, our pay got doubled, it was like, hold it, what just happened? And we went from $600 to $1,200 a month. I personally, and I realize this is going to go to referendum, but I personally don't think that the commission should be able to have an ordinance and then all of a sudden give ourselves a raise and we have to vote according to what's going to happen in the future. We're not all going to be here, so what's going to happen? What we're doing is saying that the people who we represent won't even have a say in whether we're paid $40,000 a year or we're paid $15,000 a year. And that if we can pass an ordinance takes 3 votes, we can just smooth right through it and without our residents have a say. I just really feel that they should have a say. What we did last time when Mr. White took over was basically against our own charter. He just popped in and said, hey, let's double the pay. And that's what happened, which, again, like I said, I was kind of just shocked. But I oppose it is what I'm saying, but thank you.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
No, I'm done.
I would say that the citizens have a response every time, and I can assure you that, as a citizen, you should ask the people that are running for office, what do you think about your salary? Do you anticipate increasing your salary while you're in office? If you don't like the answer that you get from that candidate, you don't vote for them. At the end of the day, the final answer is in the ballot box. If you don't like your candidate, you don't like what they're doing, you vote them out of office. But that's, again, like you always say, that's one person's opinion.
And at the same time, if somebody asked me, I would be very honest and say, no, I don't think we should be able to give ourselves a raise. But anybody running for office, you would be absolutely insane to say, you know what I'm saying? If I walked up to you and said, are you planning on giving yourself a raise? Of course. If you want to be elected, you don't say, oh yeah, first thing out of the box, that's what we're going to do. I mean, it's just good common sense. People make a lot of promises they don't ever intend to keep. And
those are the people that should be voted out of office, in my opinion. But at any rate, is there any other discussion with the commission?
I'd just like to make sure that it's still up to the public to approve an ordinance, and there must be a public hearing, which means there needs to be, if it ever got to that point again, there would be a public workshop, and it would be up to the public to actually decide, but it wouldn't be through referendum. Is that
Right. Well,
correct?
yes. So first, it's up to the public would be up to the public to approve the charter changes at referendum. As far as an ordinance, it's a majority of the commission, but you would have, first reading and then a second reading and a public hearing that would be advertised. So you would absolutely have public input on any ordinance, including one to set compensation.
Am I wrong? Were we supposed to have a public workshop for this? About making the changes? There was never a public workshop? This is the thing, and I know I hate to keep harping on it. This is something that the public, our residents, in my opinion, should have been able to have a workshop on. They're the ones that should be making the changes, not these 4 people sitting up here. Half of these changes are impossible to read, but the other half, we're eliminating things. We've not talked about that even, that we're eliminating a whole section. When this charter started, we used to have a city manager and a city clerk. And that's not been all that long ago. They were 2 separate people, and now they're one. And I don't know that that's right or wrong. I'm not judging on that. But I'm just saying, we have parts in here where the people who come out to vote, I guarantee, are not going to read the parts that have been eliminated. They're not going to read them, and it's up to us to, well, I'm not going to harp on that. I'll bring that up a little bit later. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Obis, if we left it as is, then, basically it's the same. It goes back to referendum. We'd bring it up. Let's say we wanted a raise. Okay, let's say Dan, since he's leaving in a couple weeks, wanted to go ahead and do a raise real quick, right? So he put together an ordinance and said we want to raise the pay $2,000 to the commission. At that point, it's going to go to, we have multiple readings we have to go through first off, with public input, with workshops, and then if it gets through that, it goes to referendum on the ballot. That's the current way.
Under the current charter, right,
Yes.
you'd have to do the ordinance adoption process, and then it would have to go in a referendum on the next election or a special election.
Okay, but what we're taking out is the making it go to referendum. So where's the benefit, I guess, on taking out, I understand the argument of letting the people vote on
what I'd like to see is if it's taken out, that we come back with if it gets approved, come back with an ordinance and actually set your salary, which I've yet to see. Like Commissioner Tinder said, I think it was done in a budget process with the prior city manager.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really with the goal in mind of cleaning up the charter, clarifying and adopting, past practices and making everything right going forward and having it approved properly.
In the referendum, if this should go through in the referendum, will there actually be a list of things that have been eliminated from the charter, and a list of things that have been changed from and to?
Yes, it's in the packet, and it states.
Okay.
So yes, in
Yeah.
the ordinances, it'll have the ballot question, which talks about what's happening, and then it also incorporates and references ordinance 1109. So if somebody wants to dig further, obviously you can't put the entire charter on the ballot.
Can you just put the changes and the things you're trying to eliminate?
Correct. There are about 9 bullet points that will be on the ballot.
And they would be on the ballot?
That's what you're looking at on this page is exactly
Yeah.
what's on the ballot.
Section 3
Okay.
of the ordinance.
Okay.
And we're not doing anything with this eliminating the city clerk. It was actually 2001, I think it was 20 years ago, was the last charter change. And in that charter, you had a city manager position with all these details, and you had a city manager - clerk position with it looked like a lot of overlapping. And so that was eliminated 20 years ago.
Yeah, and it was just one position.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir. So what's the purview of the commission?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the pronouns, but I would like to pull out the part about taking the vote or taking it off of the referendum, changing to where we don't have to go to referendum anymore. I prefer, and I do this from my own personal thoughts, just like many do, okay? And let's say Washington, D.C., and they all go give themselves a raise. It ticks me off, right? Because I didn't have any say in it. They just go and do it. And I do think it's a good deal for the people to be able to have that vote or that say. I understand, Mayor Pro Tem, we are elected representatives of the people, so we're speaking for, the electorate here. On the flip side, when you're talking about pay raises for yourself, I mean, I've already seen that abused in DC, and I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to keep it on a ballot. Can we delineate those out of the ordinance, I guess is what I'm asking in that motion.
You've made a motion, so we would need a second to continue discussion.
Okay.
Do we have the option?
No, I'd second because I'm behind just about everything else except what, we're bringing up a valid point on pay increases, and to Ms. Tinder, I was the same way. I didn't know this was a paid position until very near the election. I was like, so it was one of the last questions I asked myself, but and I try to give back as much as my salary back to different things. So I have a clear conscience in saying that it should be up to the citizens here, and that's in no regard something that I want to be involved with as a commissioner to vote on any pay increases. So if it ever does come around, it would still go the route of an ordinance and then a referendum. So we're just removing the referendum part. Is that correct?
The
The
proposal
process,
right now.
the process would still be, and I would want it.
For correction, the motion that you just seconded pulls that out, so
Yes.
so salary would have to go back to referendum again.
On the ballot.
Yes.
My question is, now that we've got a motion and a second, the discussion is, can we move forward with the pronoun correction based on this motion, or is this going to push the pronoun correction out to not be able to make it to the March ballot? Or April
No, we
ballot?
can, that's not going to be a material, I mean, we're not adding anything material. You can
just
take
taking-
out one
you're
of the
taking a
proposals.
bullet out,
You can
right?
take out a proposal and we can.
Very good.
We can change that for the ballot. What I would suggest, however, if there's a majority that's going to do that, is because if we want this to go to, the rest of these changes to go to a referendum, I would like to see the compensation set. I don't think it's been done.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you leave it, whatever you're getting right now, or give yourselves a pay decrease or an increase, put something where they approve, where the citizens can approve it, or at least ratify what you're doing right now. That's my concern.
So
My question, though, is if we change this now, because this is the final reading, if we change wording to add in our salary that we currently collect, is that not going to throw it out to where that can't make the April? Because the way I would see it is that you'd have to have another first reading if you're adding wording to the ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could argue that would be a material, well,
And just so y'all all remember, I'm not running, so I'm out in May. So this doesn't affect me. I'm not going to be collecting any more money or anything else from this. I'm just trying to make sure we do this right.
Mr. Obis, would it behoove us to have me amend my motion to say keep salary at current rate, and then redo the whole ordinance basically, or the whole motion that we're talking about here? Is that what I need to do in order to clarify this
well, I
muddy
mean,
water?
as Commissioner Russell said, I think if we added language like that, because again, that would be really setting, even if you're I don't care if it's a raise or decrease, increase, whatever, you're proposing to set a salary or set compensation, so that would be, I think, a material change, and we wouldn't be able to meet any sort of deadlines. If you just wanted to take out the proposed revision, so you still do have to go to referendum, I think you can do that. That's not going to solve our problem as far as setting your compensation. I mean, that would have to be 2 years from now, or unless you do a special election, if you want to put your compensation on a referendum.
The good thing about it, doing this, though, it would give y'all 2 years to sit down and form a committee or form somebody to go through this charter and make all the corrections that need to be made.
I like that idea. Yeah, if I'm hearing, I like what you just said. I'm not sure what you just said, but I would like to.
What I've just said is that I have not seen any commissioner compensation ever be set by ordinance or referendum.
Okay.
And you're all getting one.
And I think it should be set by referendum. I think the people should vote on raises. But I also want to talk about the fact that we're trying to hurry through, past this, eliminate, add, and do all these he's to she's and it, whatever. And in less than 3 months, we're going to have people, all, newly elected people up here.
Well, just
I mean-
just for
Well,
clarification, the
this is
reason we're
stuff we
rushing
knew
this
would need
through
to be changed
is
for a
to
long
get it
time.
on this election. And if we don't rush it through and get it in this election cycle, we either wait 2 years or we pay for a special election.
I'm not opposed to either one of those. To allow us to form a committee of residents to come up with these changes, if they have any. I just feel like we're shoving it through as quickly as we can go to change a few he's and she's and to eliminate certain things and,
I'm not sure I disagree with both proposals. Let's vote, let the citizens vote on the current changes and also do the revision for 2 years. That would be the course that I'd like to see happen, but again, it's up to this commission to decide what they prefer. But anyway, we have a motion and a second on the floor, so we're going to have to vote on that unless there's been a correction. So let's go. Is there any discussion with the public since we have a motion and a second on the floor? Yes, sir, Mr. Walker. Please keep in mind, Mr. Walker, I know this is probably a dear subject to you, but we do have a 3-minute time limit, sir.
Finally, you're coming down to reality. This is reality. I said it when I opened up. This is the public's hour document. You're rushing something through without even thinking about it. Really, you're taking opinions from people that are not involved with this. We are involved in this. Let me give you a little insight. The first breach and breaking of the law of the charter was done 5 years ago when they doubled your salary. That was done by the staff. The staff did that. The second breach of raising your salary was done by the staff behind closed doors. Public was not even told about it. The commissioners were not told about it. The charter is explicit. The commission will set their compensation by resolution, not ordinance, by resolution, and then referendum. What you're doing here is you're passing an ordinance. You're nitpicking at little things, not taking a look at the total document and planning it for now and the future. I got your attention by saying that the mayor of this town cannot be a woman. The city manager of this town cannot be a woman. Everybody thought that was a joke. It's not a joke. It's important. The President of the United States just passed transgender rules. Are we saying that our mayor is a transgender? What are we saying? It's explicit. It tells you it's not a joke. It's time to take a look at this document in total. Get a committee together of congressional people that know what they're talking about and involve the citizens and lay out a plan for the future. Don't nitpick at it by trying to force it into, by April, into something that you might not need. You can't decide on it. You're not doing it. I'm sorry, but this is the way it is. And these people know it. Mrs. Tinder is correct. When this gets on the referendum, if they see that in there, they're going to vote this down. And you've wasted all this time. Ladies and gentlemen, elected officials, let's do it right.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Scray.
Ryan Scragan. Appreciate your motion in the second. So I just want to cover a few things here. First, I believe taking it out of the referendum for this upcoming election is the correct thing to do because you're, as Commissioner Tinder pointed out, giving more decision-making to the public. Because let's look at those workshops. How many people show up? 50? Whether they're preoccupied, busy, or disinterested, it doesn't matter. How many people are in this room? 21, 22, 25? Right. If we had public commentary for an ordinance that you guys could pass, are you going to let 500 people, if they showed up, I'm not saying they'll show up, but if they showed up, are you going to give all 500 3 minutes to talk? Because that's what you're going to have to do if you want public commentary. You put it on a referendum, you're getting, what, 20% of the public of Lynn Haven that can vote participating, and all you got to convince is a little more than half of those. So you're talking about 10% of the population if you want a pay raise. Why don't we put any potential pay raise, if you guys are considering it, on a second referendum for this election? I'm not sure if we have time for that, but if you do, consider it a separate item on the ballot, separate of this change. Keep the language in there, but if you want a pay increase or a pay change, put it as a separate item. And in the future, with new commissioners, whether your Commissioner Tinder's voted back in, it looks like you're not running, so whoever the new one is, and the new mayor commissioner, let's let them, look at the governance process and figure out how that's going to look. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jamie, if you don't mind, I'm going to let Arlene go first, just because it's always ladies. So, thank you for understanding. Yes, Miss Arlene.
Arlene Harrison, 904 Michigan Avenue. Presumably, our current charter is on the official website, correct? And could we have also on the website the proposed changes, highlight, just redo the charter and put in the proposed changes?
It's in the agenda for this commission meeting. If you go to the website,
Yep.
It's got the changes in our agenda packet.
Okay, so how?
Yeah, you just go to the commission meetings and go to the agenda, and you can scroll down and find it. Yes, ma'am.
But my question is are the parts that's been changed, are they highlighted?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, Mr. Ward.
Jamie Ward, 2002 Pentland Road. I know I brought this up back in August, and I didn't realize it was brought up before then. And I wish back then we had created a committee at that time. And I think that's what needs to happen here. And not only that, I think that's one of the changes that needs to be made in the charter. I think we even have disagreements just on the short discussion that we've had on the charter. And that's why I think having a committee to put this together, and that way the public can come in and put inputs in there, is extremely important. Because it shouldn't be about what I want. It shouldn't be about what the commission wants. It should be what the Lynn Haven residents want. And so this should be written by the residents of Lynn Haven for the residents of Lynn Haven. And I just, the point that was brought up earlier by Commissioner Tinder, I do think we're trying to rush this through because we're in a time crunch of trying to get it on the ballot. And when we do, what happens when you rush is you miss things. And something will get missed or something will get misconstrued, and then we're back to square one. This is important to me, that I think this is important, that needs to be redone because it's been way too long. But it needs to be put, in my opinion, it needs to be put in the charter that you assign a committee. Because I've looked at other cities as far as how their charters are written, and a lot of them have in there that they will assign a committee at a certain time, and usually it's about a year prior, that gives them plenty of time to go over it. So I urge you to not put it on the ballot. I know it's going to be another 2 years. Let's do that. I think we're going to do more harm if we put it on the ballot, because most people, they only going to have one question, yes or no. That's not a whole lot of input. So I ask that you put that into consideration, please. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, could I have a comment here?
Sure.
I'm not disagreeing to move it, to wait a couple of years, but it's just interesting to me. I know a lot of people around this county and in this city, and there's about 5 that are talking about a charter change, major charter overhaul. So we talk about the citizens. Yes, I agree. I don't live in a box. I talk to people and I meet people and I see people all the time, every single day. Got lunches booked all week this week. None of them in the past have come to me, and I'm speaking as a representative, that have come to me and said, you know what, Brandon, we have a terrible, terrible charter issue as it's being presented up here, and that we're all going to go to jail and it's all going to burn down to the ground if we don't fix all this stuff and all this, You know what, we'll put it off 2 years then. We can put together a committee. I'm not opposed to that at all. No one was discussing a charter up until the last couple months, and all of a sudden it's charter. Well, once you get outside these four walls, no one's talking about no charters. So let's wait 2 years. Let's let the public hear about it, and let's let some changes be made. Let's put together a committee. We can each possibly assign one person per board member and an outstanding member, and put together that board to overview that charter at that point. We'll just punt.
I second that.
Well, we actually already have a motion and a second.
We already have a
on the floor,
motion and a second. We have
and
to
that's
move
got to be
on.
dealt with before we can move forward, short of you withdrawing your motion.
I withdraw the motion.
All righty, does the second have to be withdrawn too? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Nope.
I think everything we put on here, minus the removing the language about commissioner compensation, is stuff that we've talked about, and I don't think anybody can disagree that it needs to be changed. All the other bullet points. The only thing that we are talking about here was the compensation of the commission. So why not just put this, remove the compensation of the commission bullet, go forward with this change, put it on the referendum, let the citizens decide, and then you have 2 years, like you said, to form the committee to go forward with other changes. And if there's anybody who wants to contest any other bullet point on here that's spelled out, what's the issue? And the most vital thing that Mr. Walker brought up was the gender stuff. So I mean, we're updating the charter. It gets done in periods of time. So we have an issue on one point. We voted. We did the second, and let's remove that point and move on. And then everybody else's points are valid to move forward in the next 2 years toward a committee to make charter reform.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other comments from the commission?
Yeah, and I didn't want to sit and go through every little item.
That's what we're here for. These are the bullet points.
You got it. Okay, if we go to, I want to make sure I understand this correctly. Under section 21, officers and departments of the city of Lynn Haven. If I am correct, everything with a line struck through it, we want eliminated. They would be voting to eliminate this.
Correct.
The first thing is we've crossed out city clerk. And what it says is officers and departments of the city of Lynn Haven, in addition to the city manager, shall consist of a city attorney, police chief, fire chief, city clerk, which we've crossed off, which would be eliminated, public works, finance director, and those departments as established by ordinance. The heads of each and every department shall be appointed by the city manager. And now we're crossing off this, we're eliminating this part, with the advice and consent of the majority of the commission, or upon the failure to do so, the mayor/commissioner shall make such appointments if it is deemed necessary or expedient by the majority of the commission. And in either event, such appointment shall be made by the advice and consent of the majority of the commission. That's all been eliminated. Okay? Do you agree with all that? That should all be eliminated?
Yes, that's why we hire a city manager.
Right. So I'm not
The
saying
city
anything about
manager should
that.
have
Do
their
you agree that we
department
should
head.
not have a deputy clerk?
The city manager is the clerk.
There's nothing in here about the deputy.
That is correct.
Okay.
This was, if you go back 20 years ago, they eliminated the referendum back then, eliminated city clerk, and it was left in there, and I think one other spot at the very beginning where it said manager/clerk's office.
Oh, that was by error?
Yes.
So you're just correcting an error?
Yes.
Correct.
That's all that is.
Okay.
Looks like it was removed in numerous places 20 years ago, and they missed 2 spots.
Okay. On the part where we are adding that the mayor/commissioner will sign all checks that the city manager writes, have we added that in there as far as what we talked about last time? That should that mayor be indisposed, and I mean like out of town, would a commissioner suffice to sign those checks? And I think somebody else, and for your benefit as well, this is nothing, for the city manager's benefit, she doesn't want checks going out that aren't countersigned by someone.
Wouldn't that be Mayor Pro Tem?
It's still,
Well, and-
all checks take 2 signatures.
2 signatures.
And I know we did discuss this 2 weeks ago, and we decided not to make any changes because there's existing language that says during the absence of the city manager, let's see, the city commission can designate some properly qualified person. Let's see, there was something else in there about well, like I said, yeah, it'd be the mayor pro tem, it'd be whoever else would be acting, or if the mayor knows they're going to be out of town, they could designate somebody else on the commission to perform those roles. So it'd be more of a mayor
Okay.
pro tem duty.
Okay, so and shall countersign all checks and vouchers prepared by the city manager.
Right.
That
Right,
goes
again,
out?
again, the
there's
checks
other,
would still have
you
to be
know,
signed by the city manager.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
it takes both our signatures.
Right, takes 2.
But there's other language in the absence of the mayor, there's a mayor pro tem that can fill those roles. So that would be one of those roles that
Okay,
by default could be done.
okay,
So yeah, you're always going to have the two signatures.
okay. So are we adding that or taking that out? That line right there?
We're adding that line. We've moved that. So what she's referring to is where it says "and shall countersign all checks and vouchers." That was over in section 30 under city treasurer, which we don't really have a city treasurer because it said there shall be a city treasurer who shall countersign all checks. We've just moved that duty from city treasurer over to mayor.
Which the mayor has
Mayor's
kind of always
absent,
been
so
the
it-
treasurer, right?
Right. So it's not new language. We just moved it from one spot to the other
Okay, so that's just.
to be
new.
consistent with what we've been doing, which is having the mayor sign, not a city treasurer.
I have different feelings on how the vote's going to go on this. I hope that the clarifications, if we move forward, I hope that all the changes and additions and whatnot are very easy for our residents to understand, because I'll tell you, being totally honest, I have gone into that ballot thing, and when I see all this gizmo and all that, I go, I'm going to vote for who I just want to run, and I eliminate that. I don't even look at it. It's so mind-boggling, and I certainly know I'm not the only one that does that. But if we don't get the majority of the votes for this,
if we
you're
don't-
right. We'll just turn around, form a committee
Yep.
next year, and do it that way.
Can we still not delineate out if Commissioner Perno wants some of those items to move forward, can we not just delineate out in the ordinance that we're doing here of what we want to move forward and what we want to remove?
Your
think that's what the
your-
motion
your
is right
motion was
now,
to
is
remove
everything moving forward,
the compensation.
other than the compensation.
Commission
I
compensation.
thought it died. I didn't think I had a
No,
second.
no, no.
Well,
No.
he did not withdraw his second.
You
so we
actually
still have
rescinded your motion, but he has not rescinded his second, so the motion's
Okay.
still
still
there.
out there.
That works, okay.
Yep. So the motion's still on the floor because of Caperno. And if there's no more discussion, with the commission, we're going to call the roll. Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes.